Hey everyone, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Hugh Sadler. I am Head of Managed Services at ITRS. Can we go to the next slide, please? So I'm a Head of Managed Services at ITRS, and in conjunction with Carlos Duval, who I'll introduce in a second, we've developed a product, so to speak, a tool. So the origin story of our new development, our MS team developed GDNA, which is the Geneos Dynamic Netprobe Analysis tool 14 months ago within one of our tier 1 MS client sites. And it's been an absolute game changer for both us and our MS clients. Peter Galbaby, who will introduce himself shortly, aka the godfather of Geneos, who's part of the professional services team, developed a version of GDNA that all our Geneos users outside of MS can install and use. That's what we will be running you through shortly. For now, let me just hand you over to Carlos to introduce himself.
My name is Carlos Duval. I head up professional services globally. We have a team in Europe, the Americas, and APAC, and I'll be stepping through the second part of this development.
Hi, I'm Peter Galbaby. Thank you, Hugh, for the wonderful introduction. As part of our service delivery team, I'm one of the consultants that work for Carlos. I'm also the lead developer of this GDNA tool and some of the other facilities that will be mentioned later.
Fantastic. I think we can pop to the next slide. So, what is GDNA and why do I need it? So we developed, oh, give me 1 second, sorry. There we go. Okay, so we developed the Geneos Dynamic Netprobe Analysis, GDNA tool, to provide a holistic overview of an entire organization's Geneos estate. GDNA is fundamentally a tool used to report on the quality of an organization's Geneos deployment, provides a comprehensive breakdown of monitoring coverage that includes all gateways, servers, and net probes. Clearly shows the level 1, level 2, and level 3 monitoring maturity overview of entire organization. We'll cover off the what the levels mean a little bit later. Illustrates the breakdown of the overall server and gateway coverage. Provides an overview of entire organization's monitoring depth and plugin utilization. It is dynamic, and we showed on we've got two separate dashboards, which will show you your entire estate. As you can see at the top, it shows monitoring coverage, a rudimental breakdown of all the gateways, the servers, and the probes. Then what we've done is, the next layer is the plugin utilization. Within managed services, what we've done is we've actually defined policies, what equates level 1, level 2, and level 3 maturity. And what we've defined as level 1 is CPU, disk, hardware, network. Level 2, process log files. And level 3, everything else. Level 3 is what sets us apart from our competitors. And therefore, we needed to create a view where we can actually see how well the product is being used by our clients. The server coverage shows what this does is, if a server equates to level 1, level 2, and level 3 monitoring maturity, then it is deemed as fully covered. If, for example, a server only has three of the 4 level 1 plugins enabled, if you go back to the top, the CPU, disk, and hardware, and if they don't have network, that would come back as not fully compliant. Therefore, if you look at the from the server coverage where it says incomplete coverage, what it clearly shows is the number. So the percentage is 50% in this demo. That's 4,412. Now, what we can show is at level 1, out of that number, 542 are not level 1 compliant. On the level 2, 3650 is not level 2 compliant, and 1805 on the level 3 is not compliant. The level 3 is the one where it is critical to have that fully covered, because if it's not, it means the product's not being used correctly. Therefore, this can help guide our users to using the product. Then what we've got is we've also built in the bottom section, which shows the coverage of gateways. So if all the probes within the gateway are fully mature, i.e. level 1, 2, and 3, then it will say complete coverage for those gateways. If not, if not, then it will show where it says incomplete coverage. You can see 179 gateways, which is 88% of this demo state. So this gives the application champions the tool to go and remediate those. What actually happens with this dashboard, which is quite nice as well, is the moment we are fully compliant, the circles around the diagrams and where it shows the hardware, the high strikers, they all go green, which is quite nice. So that's obviously what we're all striving for. Okay, mate, I think we can go to the next one. Now this is what we call the beehive. What the beehive does, it's a overview of plugin utilization within any organization. So what we've done, we have gone and we've shown at the top of the screen, you can see the total count of servers. Then to the right of that, you see level 1. You can see it's nearly fully compliant, 1,163 servers need to be remediated. Level 2, there's near 50-50 split. And level 3, you can see 2,426. Now, on the right-hand side, we've got a key system explaining what the colors mean. Level 1, required, and level 2 required will always be amber or green. They will never be grayed out because they are required. And what you can see is, what we've done is we've planned an evolution of plugins. So where it starts with level 1 required, it displays what the plugins are. And at the bottom, it's got a number, which is how many are actually compliant. At the top, it's that number is the monitoring depth. So it's really great metrics that you can get via this view. What we've done is above level 1 required, it's level 1 optional. As it states, it's optional whether you want to use that. But what we're more focused on is when you go from level 1, you go to level 2, and then you get the level 3 bubble. Now, the level 3 opens up everything that actually sets us apart. We've gone one step further, and we've actually batched all the plugins to a business function. For example, where this will really help our clients is if I run the front office or market data function within a company, and I'm the senior stakeholder and I'm paying the bills, and I have a look at this, the first question is, why aren't we really utilizing this product? What we can see there at the moment, we've got 1, 2, 3 plugins utilized, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 that aren't. Why don't we do that? Why don't we actually use the product correctly? So yeah, that's the evolution. That is the beehive. So we try to make it look a bit like DNA. So yeah, so quite proud of this one. It's really helped us in our managed service client sites. Like I said, it's been a game changer. There are a few more things to come, which I'm not going to talk about now, which will enhance this as well. Can we go to the next screen, please? Right. How does GDNA benefit the business? Accountability enables management to track the usage of Geneos within their lines of business or their organization. Financials, it expedites the return on investment. So the quicker we get to monitoring maturity level 1, 2, and 3, the quicker we can then really add value when it comes to level 4, which is the process flow, and level 5, which is how it affects the organization, reputational damage, financial loss, and so forth. But to get to that point, we actually need to pull the metrics. We need to get level 1, 2, and 3 enabled. Transparency, a holistic view of monitoring coverage of an entire organization, as you saw now, and value, highlights monitoring depth against usage. So I hope I didn't ramble through that too quickly, because I know we've got quite a lot we want to cover off. So yeah, what I'll do is I'm going to hand over to Carlos now, and Carlos will run you through a few more steps before we show you the implementation. Carlos, over to you.
Cheers. Thank you, Hugh. So as you can see, a lot of power in this application utility we've developed. And one thing I wanted to touch on that a lot of you may not be very aware of is the levels of maturity within Geneos that Hugh touched upon. So I just want to quickly touch on those just to give you a better idea rather than a larger holistic view. So level 1, from a Geneos point of view, it's our base. It provides the base level, we call it peace of mind monitoring, that ensures the lights are on at a very, very primitive level. And this involves monitoring operating systems, basic hardware and network, i.e. is the node up, the server, virtual machine, whatever it may be. And as you saw from the previous slides, there are 4 main plugins there. They encapsulate the CPU, i.e. the percentage of the CPU, memory usage, logs, hardware I should say, and network. If these are all up, then that machine is running. Again, this is the underlying structure for all our levels. None of them can run if this is not running perfectly. Our next level is level 2. There we go, thank you.
I think you need maps.
These are the business applications. Once again, building upon level 1, where we have all the basic health checks in place, we are now able to position ourselves to monitor certain processes and logs. Again, using our FKM, file key monitor, which I'm sure you're all aware of, and the process monitoring plugin, which not only monitors specific processes with certain arguments, but also their memory, virtual memory, etc. It's a good time to highlight that at this point, we say that these 2 are mandatory to be compliant at level 2 in the GDNA dashboard and Beehive that Hugh just touched upon. So once we have these in place, it's also a good idea to add interactive commands to your active console. Why? Every organization is different. You're all going to be monitoring level 1, but the way that you do your business is different in every organization. And I can say that from a professional services point of view, there is not one Geneos installation that is similar to another. So therefore, it's a good idea to add your interactive commands, whether it be restarting a server, restarting a script, etc. It's a good stage to do that at level 2. We now touch on level 3. This is where most of our clients aim or strive to be to, and this is what GDNA has been built to help you get to. These are where you're designing specific plugins for monitoring applications for industry standard items. So whether they be plugins that we provide, i.e. Oracle databases, market data, i.e. as Refinitiv and our MDM tool, or whether it's creating custom interfaces to custom built applications, i.e. synonymous with our famous SQ toolkit, which enables us to plug in any code or script to be run from the NetProbe and therefore produce custom monitoring metrics. As I said, this is where most of our clients strive to be, and GDNA is here to help you get to that level 3. However, a few of our clients stop at level 3 and they don't understand that there's a lot of information that can still be deduced from these level 3. They stop here. So I want to introduce the next 2, which you may not be familiar with. Level 4 is end-to-end monitoring. This is where we gather all the metrics from all the sources in level 1, level 2, level 3 across different applications and business activities, and we aggregate them together and we provide transactional analysis. This is what shows you where in your, for example, trading system, your trades are getting stuck at, where the latency is, what's causing applications to be stalled, whether they be credit card applications, trading applications, even transactions at the payments level. And last but not least, we have our level 5. This is what we all should be striving to do and what most of our Tier 1 clients are aiming to do. This is where we display all the underlying data into critical success criteria for the business, i.e., is my trading system down? Are my payments not getting received by SWIFT? It's a very, very holistic level encapsulating all the different levels below. And I say that because you cannot get to level 5 without obviously having done the levels below it. And the great thing about Geneos as well is that once you create certain dashboards or functionality for certain areas of the business, you're able to aggregate them at the top level and give that CTO or CIO visibility, which is what the business strives and drives on. So hopefully that's made it more clear to everyone here on the call. So how do we do this? Well, we use a utility codenamed Cordial, but we call it the Geneos utility. Now in professional services, we obviously deal with just about all greenfield implementations all around the world. We deal in over 60 countries. And the Geneos tool was created because we saw there was a void. There was a void in being able to very easily manage the components in Geneos. And therefore, we added a lot of automation to it to help you not just deploy Geneos, but maintain it. The main parts of, or the main utilities, I should say, are made up of those in the list below. Obviously, GDNA is one of them. Geneos utility itself, which we'll go into. As you can see, we've even added functionality to send a data view as an email. Again, these are requirements that we saw from the ground from our clients. Scan directories and files for certain bits of information. And just an important note there, that is not a replacement for FKM. We're also able to generate monitoring coverage reports based from setup files. And last but not least, and one of the mostly used utilities in this is a replacement for the standard lib email. This again was a requirement by a number of clients where they wanted to add graphics, they wanted to put their own logos so that when alerts got sent, it could be easy and visually seen to the operators. So again, lib email is basically our most popular tools at the moment. And just a few of the other features before we go into the GDNA part. It helps you install Geneos with one single command. That's right, with one single command, after entering your credentials, you can download, install, and also maintain your Geneos install by updating it with a single command. It can even adopt to any existing tools you have, so it can be used in conjunction, for example, with other automation tools such as Puppet and Ansible. It can operate across the different server groups with a single command. One of the other features that we've incorporated recently is that we've heard clients saying how difficult it is to manage their security when they encrypt their connections with TLS. We are now able to manage the certificates for you between the NetProbes and the gateways. And that brings us to the next one where it's compatible with good old AES 256 encoded passwords. And you can also change settings at runtime. That's right, so I can change port numbers, instances, names, attributes, etc., all from a command line. And last but not least, we can see through the evolution of ITRS that we're moving now into more self-announcing and floating net probes. This again can be handled with one command in Geneos. So let's talk about GDNA and how we've structured it to make it as easy as possible. Because at the end of the day, if it's not easy, then it defeats its purpose. We have two ways of installing GDNA. The first one is via Docker, which we believe is the quickest, and that's what we're going to demo very shortly. And the other one is standalone, because we do understand that there are some constraints in our clients' environments, especially those in highly regulated environments such as governments, banks, and other federal institutions where Docker is not an option. So we do provide both. So what are the prerequisites? GDNA simply uses the license theme to get its usage data. So the two main prerequisites are either report access via the license theme and to that endpoint, and the sub prerequisite is needs to connect to that port, out of the box. That's 7041, but it can be whatever you named it for. And the license daemon must be greater than 5.70, and it must be run in report detail mode. Again, all this is covered in a lot more detail in our documentation, which we'll point you to very soon. And or access to the new license daemon summary reports. From an architectural point of view, the Docker install looks as it is on the screen. From a visualization perspective, you've obviously got Active Console, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with. Nothing changes there. And a lot of the specific data views that Hugh highlighted in his segment are visible through there. So you should be very familiar with that. The other thing, obviously, we need, these are dashboards, so we need a desktop web browser. So once you go and you run the Docker container, so you get it from our Docker registry, you set up the Docker Compose YAML and the GDNA YAML in that, which Peter is going to quickly run through. We have the Docker container itself running, the GDNA start daemon, and that simply connects to the Netprobe via the API plugin. It creates a demo gateway. Why is it demo? Because you don't need a license daemon for it. Again, we're trying to make this as simple as possible, and it then spins up its own web dashboard. It also has an SQLite running in the background. That's what we need to aggregate, as you can imagine, all the large amounts of data that we're pulling in. We're doing a lot of functions on them and aggregating them into those data views that you then see either in Active Console and or in the dashboard. And you can see, once again, we're just connecting to the license daemon via our standard HTTP/S. And there's a dotted email there for, dotted line, I should say, to the email. That's just running on SMTP. It's dotted because it's optional, whether you want to get detailed summary reports in email of your monitoring coverage as well. So we've tried to cover all bases here as easily as possible for you. And the last one is a standalone install. Once again, very similar to the other one. It's using a demo gateway with the Netprobe pointing to our API plugin. From a GDNA perspective, we have a YAML file. And let's just be clear here, all the YAML file is doing is pointing to all the various license daemons you have running on your estate. The prerequisite obviously being that the GDNA tool has to have access to those license daemons on that 7041, whatever port you've pointed it to. And at this stage, I want to make very clear, probably the biggest obstacle in any of this, as you probably know, is getting access to those license daemons from where GDNA is running. So there may be a firewall request that you may need to put in. But apart from that, that should be the hardest thing in all this process. So what I'll do now is I'll hand over to Peter Galbabi, who helped the lead architect on this tool, and he will step us through a GDNA installation using Docker. Over to you, Peter.
Thanks very much, Carlos. So this is going to be a very straightforward demo, as Carlos introduced it, Docker-based in and so on. So first of all, where does this live? Unfortunately, I can't make this much bigger. The Cordial repo, which contains GDNA, the Geneos tool, and so on, is published on the ITRS group GitHub site. It's open source. You can inspect it and everything else that you want. And this includes the documentation, which I'm not going to go through, but this is where you get full details of how to install and deploy it, which is what the demonstration is going to show us now. I'm going to dive to a command line. My apologies for those who are a bit averse to that, but this is where it's got to be. The basic requirement for GDNA is having logged into our Docker repo. So that would be docker.itsgroup.com, etc. You put in the same credentials as you would for downloading any of our software releases. Once you've done that, what you need is a Docker Compose file. The one I'm going to show you is one that I prepared earlier but is based on the one in the documentation link that I just showed you. It's relatively simple. Of course, whenever you see these for the first time, they're never that simple. But what we're interested in fundamentally is this core bit down here. And this is the embedded gDNA configuration inside the Docker configuration. We're exposing 2 ports, one of which is the gateway. This is optional. And the other one is we're exposing the web dashboard server on a slightly different port here. The Active Console to gateway access is optional because it gives you more information, as I'll show you, but is not a core requirement to view the dashboards. As Carlos showed you, there are optional email reports. You can fill this in. Credentials are stored securely in encrypted format, so you won't see them in this command file. You can set up an email schedule or schedule for those not from the UK. This looks basically like a cron tab entry, again for the Unix administrators here. So this one basically is sending an email report at 2 AM every day. There's not a lot else there, just where the secure credentials are. And the other thing is a persistent volume for the SQLite database. Here is where I'm telling it where the license daemons are, and we're just pointing it to a handful of internal test, semi-production, etc. license daemons within ITRS, just to get some data. Obviously, I'd love to demo this using real client data, but of course, that's not going to be possible. So once you've got that, really all you have to do is Docker compose, if I could type, Docker compose up. Now, in a normal system, you'd run this in the background with a -D. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to run Docker compose up so that we see what it's doing. It will very quickly download the layers from our registry, extract, and run. And what you'll see there is it's using the Geneos tool here. It runs a gateway, a web server, and a minimal netprobe. The netprobe minimal is a new distribution with the most recent release that saves download time and so on. Then it starts the gDNA program, which you'll see gives you some information. It finishes the first run very quickly because we're not collecting large volumes of data. If I now switch to our web browser, and if I then go to the web server on port 9443, up we go, and this is the minimal data set that we've got. This is live, as you can see from the GMT UTC based clock. We're looking at 23 gateways, a total of 19 servers. Remember that these are test license daemons and other things that I'm acquiring data from. So this data is not massaged, it's not made to look good, it's just live, it's what we have. If we go to the other dashboard, if I, toggle full screen, the plugin utilization one, and again, the numbers are much smaller, but we're seeing the various things all live and so on. Let me come back out of here. What I'll do is I will now switch to the Active Console. So what we can see in the Active Console is the raw data. Now, most of this is not very interesting. However, once you've seen the dashboard, you want to take steps to remediate the issues that you may have seen highlighted. And these data views that you see here are the ones that give you the ability to do so. The dashboards are driven by the majority of these down here. For example, That Beehive dashboard is all driven from this one, so on. But then what we can do is we can also go down to individual gateways. And if I try and make this slightly bigger, my apologies for those who can't see the full detail on your screen because the active console is running in a relatively low resolution mode. Again, this is the low level data. I'm not going to go into the individual fields now, but this can help you drill down to the specific missing plugins. So where it's green, it means this server is okay. However, individual probes may not be running any known plugins and so on. Let me just hop back to that. GDNA is running. I'm going to stop it now and just run it in the background because this actually serves one of our internal demo dashboards as well. So I better leave it running. Normally, you just run it in the background like that and it's done. The standalone installation is not much more complex. However, there are more moving parts. The idea of doing it through Docker Compose like this was to minimize the amount of time that you would have to take to do any of this work, really. That's all. As you can see in there, that is the link to the Cordial repo, and in there's a top-level GDNA directory. The other tools are also available in the same place. We have, maybe we should have put this on this slide, as these are not official products through the main release process. One of the best ways, if you wish to use these independently of the service delivery team, is to go to our community forums website, which is community.itrsgroup.com. It's quite quiet, but nevertheless, there is some activity there, and it's a good place to ask questions and so on and so forth. Finally, as I've mentioned before, all of these tools are open source, so you're more than welcome to inspect them and so on. I will bear responsibility for the quality of the SQL queries in GDNA. I'm not a professional database guy, but they are good. There you go.
Peter, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Quick question. What is the time difference between the two installs?
What do you mean?
So the Docker container, we saw that's relatively quickly, and then the manual, the one that you said requires a bit more intervention. How long does that take?
Okay. As long as the prerequisites are met, i.e. the firewalls, the access to the license daemons are available and so on and so forth, and you have a relatively fair level of command line Unix knowledge, the standalone install is probably not more than half an hour, 15 minutes. It's not significantly more. However, as I say, there are more moving parts. You're expected to provide your own NetProbe gateway and web server, which may or may not already exist. The benefit of using the Docker way is it's self-contained and all those things are provided for you.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. Yeah, I did receive feedback, and I think it was about 15-20 minutes. So I just wanted to confirm with you. Fantastic. I think if there's nothing else anyone wants to add, I think we can end the webinar. Carlos, is there anything you or Peter would like to add?
Just firstly, thanks everyone for joining. Are there any questions? No questions? No?
No.
So like Peter said, please use our community site for any feedback. And if you need more information on this, please get in contact with your account manager and or customer success manager. They're there to help. They're the conduit usually to professional services. So please make use of them. And once again, we've developed this for you, the clients, because we want you to get the most out of it. It's not made for us, it's made for you. So any feedback is greatly appreciated.
Oh, can I just interject? In the next release, which will be in line with the next Geneos release towards the end of August, we also hope to be able to start exposing more information about the underlying NetProbe versions and the operating systems of the individual servers that you're running. So again, another tool, another part of the tool to make sure that the individual NetProbes running on those servers are up to date and so on and so forth.
That's brilliant.
Perfect. Thanks, Peter. Okay, well, if there aren't any other questions, thank you everyone for joining. Hope it's been very informative, and we look forward to your feedback on using GDNA and Geneos. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks, guys.